Okay, hi everyone, and thank you so much for coming. My name is Madeleine Fournier, community organizer with Stop Sprawl Orillia and Green Orillia, and I'm helping to organize this event along with some awesome speakers over here. Just a couple housekeeping things before we start. We have talked to city staff, and this is okay as long as we don't block any exits and we remain respectful. We also have seating for people with accessibility needs there and on the benches. I want to begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe include the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge the many other Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have and continue to inhabit this land. We intend our activities to take place within the larger context of genuine and ongoing work to build real understanding, to challenge colonialism, to amplify Indigenous voices, and to support land justice and land back efforts. Our local Indigenous advocate speaker, Crystal Brooks, unfortunately cannot make it as she had a family emergency, so she has sent her regrets. So in November of 2021, the City of Orillia announced that they have chosen an urban boundary expansion by way of annexation of 939 acres of land from the surrounding townships of Oro Moraine, Ramera, and Severn to plan for population growth to the year 2051. Ontario is losing 319 acres of farmland a day. Let me repeat that. Ontario is losing 319 acres of farmland per day. That's roughly the equivalent of losing Toronto's High Park every 30 hours. This is a sharp increase from the last census in 2016, when the rate of farmland lost in the province per day was 175 acres. Stop Sprawl Orillia emerged as a coalition shortly after and officially launched the movement to the public in February 2022. From lawn signs to a petition to mass emails to council to presentations, the movement grew faster and larger than we could have even expected. On April 11th, 2022, a staff report went before council with the option of either staying the course for boundary expansion or having the city's land needs assessment updated and revised to consider a higher minimum intensification target and a higher minimum designated greenfield target. Council voted unanimously for option 2, which was a huge win for Stop Sprawl Orillia. But the work isn't over. When the revised land use assessment comes back, which will be to the new council, council will have to assess the options and make their final decision about the growth of our city. We want our future council to know that we care deeply about what Orillia will look like in 30 years and beyond, and we want a say. Planning for the long-term future of our community should not be determined solely by consultants and staff behind closed doors, as well-intentioned and hardworking as they may be. We cannot possibly be going ahead with a comprehensive climate change action plan and affordable housing strategy while simultaneously sprawling recklessly. Sprawl is not affordable or sustainable. Green Orillia sent out a 32-question questionnaire to all the candidates running for this election on August 24th and gave candidates a month to review and respond to the questionnaire. The questionnaire was drafted with input from over 12 community organizations and individuals in Orillia, covering a range of topics including environment, housing, food, transit, healthcare, fiscal responsibility, and more. Question number 3 specifically asked about urban sprawl. We received completed questionnaires from 15 candidates, notes of regrets or partial completion from a number of other candidates, and no response, not even an acknowledgement of receipt, despite follow-ups from a number of other candidates. Now, we're not here to tell you who to vote for, but candidate responses, or lack thereof, speak for themselves. We have a poster at the table here with a summary of which candidates responded, and we encourage you to come look at it. The full responses can be viewed at greenorillia.ca/election, along with tons of other voter information and resources. And there are also some voter handouts that are front and back that you can take a few and for yourself or for others. So many candidates for the Orillia, Oro Moraine, Severn, and Ramera elections, well, all of the candidates were invited today. So I just want to take a moment, and if you are a candidate for the Orillia election, can you please raise your hand so people can come find you? So we encourage you to come meet and chat with these folks after the speakers are done and talk to them about your concerns. Can any Oro Moraine candidates here raise their hand? I don't know if we have any. Any candidates here from Severn? We've got one over here. Thanks, Jane. And any Romero candidates here? Please raise your hand. Okay, so it looks like Orillia candidates and one Severn candidate. Finally, I want to say a quick word about youth. The city is being asked to plan for 30 years in advance, and it's no surprise that young people like me, but also people not even born yet, will be disproportionately affected by climate change and the housing affordability crisis, and our futures will be profoundly changed. Planning for a sustainable and affordable future won't be easy, and we will have to make tough decisions, but planning for smart growth is worth it and cannot be pushed aside. I will now pass it over to Mark Bisset. Thank you.
Come in a bit closer. Come in a bit closer. I don't like the vacuum. Yeah. How about Madeleine Fournier for organizing this event? Fantastic. We need about 1,000 more people like her. So, some of you are here to learn more, but most of you are here because you understand what we're facing. You understand what's coming at us. And I think, you know, there's a lot of anger in the world right now. I think what we have to do is we have to help our municipal leaders to understand what we understand. The urban sprawl that Madeleine described as being imposed on us by the province is to me, it's the ultimate example of business as usual. Our professional planners are bound to obey the province. It doesn't matter whether they agree with it or not, they have to do their job. The only leaders in a position to say no to that current provincial directive are our municipal politicians. And what we're asking them to do is really, really hard. We're asking them to stand up against business as usual. We're asking them to kind of draw a line in the sand. We're asking them to step away from the safety of that, you know, that balanced approach between the environment and economy. We're asking them to join a handful of other municipalities in stepping out in front and leading differently. So I think more than ever, they need the help of this group of people to understand how to do that, to figure out how to do it, because none of us have all the answers to this. We need to work collectively together. The main drivers of this business as usual is the fear of economic disruption. There's other drivers, of course, but fear of economic disruption, I think, is the really, really big one. But it's coming. In fact, you could argue that economic disruption due to climate change is already here. We just had Hurricane Fiona. We had the heat dome out west. We're regularly hearing about massive floods. Municipalities are talking about moving people, expropriating land close to rivers. I think it's fair to say that we're not talking about something in the future anymore. We're talking about what's going on right now. And, you know, it's like a lottery. It's just a matter of time before Orillia gets hit with one of these things. Hurricane Hazel came through here in the 1950s and flooded half the town. And now the town's, 5, 6, 7 times as big. And a lot of that expansion has been in the floodplains. So, cast your mind forward and imagine what it's like when another Hurricane Hazel comes through, but maybe it's more intensive now. Like we're going to have problems ahead. And we need to be ready. So adding more pavement and filling in wetlands and cutting down forests are not the things that we need to be doing to be ready for those future events. It turns out that business as usual is really the surest path to massive economic disruption and social disruption. For almost 14 years now, I've had the privilege of leading a local land trust. And we protect wild spaces and hold them in trust for the public. And through the Couchiching Conservancy, I've come to understand the just astounding amount of life that exists in a single acre of forest or wetland or grassland. And how fragile it is. And how little we actually know about it. There's still so much that we don't understand. 60% of my body is made up of water. My blood's 90% water. And since I've lived most of my life on Lake Couchiching and Lake Simcoe, those bodies of water literally are flowing through me. I would die in a few minutes if I didn't have the oxygen, the air that we're breathing right now. And that oxygen is not produced by some company at an industrial park. It's produced by the trees, the forests around us, the wetlands around us, the grasslands, and not just around us, but all over the world. I saw this really cool poster once that said, if trees were offering free Wi-Fi, everybody'd be planting one. So, we don't exist as something separate from nature. We are nature. And once you start to think about that, once you truly internalize it, you can't help but see things differently. Arguments about choosing between the environment and the economy, they start to be absurd. All efforts to protect the environment are efforts to protect people and ultimately to secure a sound economy. Over the last 14 years, I've watched habitat just relentlessly nibbled away at. A lot over here and 10 acres over here and maybe 250 acres of forest over there. Just endlessly, on and on and on. It just doesn't stop. And we've witnessed species after species go into decline. Like we're slowly killing ourselves. And it has to stop. There has to be a line in the sand. Orillia has a chance to draw that line in the sand, and not only to lead locally, but to lead provincially. So how do we help our leaders? This is the head scratcher. Well, you're doing it right now. You're out here and you're showing them what you want. I wish there was 10 times as many people as you out here today. But my friend Gord Ball says the people that are here are the ones that should be here. The world is run by the people who show up. We have to do it with our votes. We have to elect people who understand, or at least show signs of understanding. And our leaders need to see that when they have the courage to make tough, principled decisions, they'll have the support of the community, because they can't make those decisions otherwise. So we're asking our municipal leaders to try a new way. please try a new way. Thanks very much. Thanks for coming out, guys.
All right, hello everybody. First, I want to thank Madeleine for being such an authentic and an effective community organizer and for hosting this event today. So my name is Paige Jakobczak and I'm the fundraising coordinator at Couchiching Jubilee House. We offer long-term transitional housing and outreach support. We are increasingly concerned about the future for many families here in Orillia amidst the housing crisis. Currently, we have women in our transitional home who are ready to move out, but they have nowhere to move to. The current wait time on the Simcoe County subsidized housing wait list is 7 years, while transitional housing can only keep families housed for 4. We hear every day from women who are losing their housing because of job losses, insecurity, increased costs of living, and insufficient wages. This is the point at which we have to realize that the system as it is not working and is not adequately meeting the needs for many. Most of us here today realize that, and it's our job to invite others to join us to imagine how we can do things differently. There are 2 points I want to emphasize today. The first is that the affordable housing crisis impacts all of us. We are all far closer to losing our housing than we would like to admit or even realize. More and more, we are hearing from working people who would have never imagined themselves losing their housing in need of housing support. We are looking to create a broader inventory of attainable and retainable housing options for families in Orillia, and there are many creative ways to do this. We can increase subsidized housing, rent geared to income, transitional and supportive units. We can update the city's 12-year-old affordable housing plan. We can hire an affordable housing coordinator. And we can support policy that does not prioritize exchanging a human right, like housing, as an investment opportunity for some to become exorbitantly wealthy. The first step to tackling the housing crisis is acting out of solidarity with our neighbors who are experiencing housing precarity and houselessness. This can look like supporting local nonprofits and local organizations that are doing the advocacy work. This can look like paying your employees a livable wage. And this can look like getting out to vote, and after the election, hold your leaders accountable to the responses that they made in the Simcoe County Alliance to End Homelessness questionnaire and the Green Orillia questionnaire. Remember, housing scarcity is a policy choice. Building a community for all actually means including all of us in decision making and not systemically excluding and punishing the poor for being poor. The second point I want to emphasize is that there's a misconception that housing affordability and environmental protection are special interests, or that they are partisan, or that they are not intricately connected. A community that is walkable, affordable, connected to transit, not located in a food desert, and built on pre-existing city land is not partisan, it's common sense. This creates a dynamic community with more opportunities. Investing in people is where we will see our greatest return. It is the role of housing providers, organizations, and nonprofits to advocate and put pressure on policymakers to do the right thing. This looks like funding warming centers. This looks like working with nonprofits to develop underused land, adjusting the city's zoning bylaws to include affordable housing, and offering grants and other financial incentives for nonprofits to expand their operations. This also means making every decision with the goal in mind of creating a vibrant and sustainable community for all of us. Simply adding more overpriced housing to the supply is not the solution to the housing crisis as suggested by some. An increased supply of overpriced housing does not meet the demands of the majority of working class people. We believe the solution to houselessness and housing precarity is community. Community, connection, and affordability are all needed to ensure that basic needs are met along with social needs. When individuals are supported by a community, they will thrive and they will find the resources they need to find and maintain housing. To close, I want to say to all the municipal candidates here today, if elected, be brave, think boldly, and act differently. If you truly want to expand the economy to include everybody, to have a prosperous local economy, and to sustain a workforce, you have to act boldly on the affordable housing crisis. And remember, investing in people and investing in the environment in which we live is going to show the greatest return on investment long term. Thank you.
That's really hard to follow. So I'm going to just talk about food. I assume everyone had breakfast today and stuff? And lunch?
Yes.
That's really nice for you. There's a lot of people in our community who can't even afford food to eat right now. And what are the costs of that? Anybody know what's the cost of that? Having thousands of people in our community who can't even access healthy food to eat? Shout it out.
Poor health.
Poor health. Depression. Hopelessness.
No energy.
Mental health. Come on, shout it out.
Terrible learning outcomes for children.
Terrible learning outcomes for children. Nothing good comes out of it. Exactly, yeah. Yet we have thousands of people here in our community, and we've known about this for, well, how long have we known about this for? Forever. And what's our plan to do anything about this? Nothing. Until today, maybe, hopefully. It's not hard. Where does food come from? The earth, yeah. Generally speaking. Seeds, farms and gardens.
Grocery store.
Grocery stores, lakes and forests. Oceans, the wetlands. Really gardening? Yeah. And so we're talking about sprawl, and one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like urban sprawl is because of the impacts it has on our forests and our fields and our wetlands and our farms. And most people just don't really care, because those who, can afford food, they go to the grocery store and there it is, and they go home and they cook it and they have a good thing, and then they go on with their lives. And then eventually, if you don't have the food, then you're kind of cast aside onto the margins, and you become, what was it again? Marginalized? No, but what happens to people when they don't have food again?
Nothing good.
Nothing good. Yet we're all too happy to pay for all those outcomes of the nothing good. And we're thinking about solutions here, and as a young local farmer, we go to the farmer's market, and for the last 5-6 years, it seems like I'm the only local farmer there. I don't know if any of you have been there. There's a guy who comes from the Holland Marsh, and sometimes people pop in and out, and we have this local farmer's market, and there's no farmers there. And then everyone goes out to the fairgrounds, and they have a few more farmers there. But compared to, historical levels of farming around this area, we've gone from a time where almost most people were farming, living on the land, cultivating food, cultivating community, living in harmony with the earth, to a point where most of us now are just consumers, and we're dependent on this market, which is now a global market. And that's not sustainable. As we've seen last year, food price inflation 10%. People in this community, record levels at the sharing place. And then we're wondering about the city's making this plan, right? And they need to annex land for employment lands. So they need to annex the farms around us to put in factories or something, because they're planning for employment 30 years down the line, because we don't even know what people are going to be working next year, let alone 30 years down the line. But maybe we can make a plan so that the farmland surrounding the city, maybe we actually think of those as employment lands. What about that?
Yay!
What if all these people in our community who are looking for meaningful employment and all these things, what if those people are actually employed growing food for our community? What about that?
Yes.
it's a pretty radical proposition to have people growing food locally. It's pretty extreme. Some would say a special interest. Certainly too costly. We can't find money in the budget for that. But we got money for the easily preventable diet-related illness that is a result of all these children who were knowingly malnourishing and sending to our schools to misbehave, and all the other bad things that come from it. But yeah, it's the solutions aren't that complicated. There are examples that we can look to locally of things to do, but I would just say maybe let's have a focus on food. Let's, food and water, figure out the basic needs of the people in our community first. And I think from there we can, have the energy to begin conversations to explore these complex issues. And what was I going to say? I had some notes, but you're all looking at me. There's a lot of pressure. Oh yeah, so some candidates in Orillia, they're all like, if we don't sprawl, they will. And that's true, because there's a lot of people out there who want a sprawling estate, and that's a selling feature for a lot of developments in Oromodonte right now. You see it; it's literally sprawling estates. That's what they put on the poster to sell these massive lots, because people want that connection to nature. People want to have a space to go to enjoy that nature, because they're not getting it here in the city, that's for sure. We have 33,000 people in here and there's no farm. Imagine we had a farm here in the city, on a bus route, walkable, bikeable. And we have a city that we build a city where people actually want to live in. Imagine that. And instead, we're driving people out of our cities. People go into cities, so we can't think of, this density and intensification. These are scary words. We really need to think about, the quality of life of our city and bringing in the best into our cities so that we have a livable city. And our city council needs to put pressure on the surrounding municipalities and work with them so that we don't just, build up here and make all the sacrifices and then they sprawl and they destroy everything around us. Because at this rate, that's likely what's going to happen if we don't work together with our surrounding municipalities and come up with a plan that goes beyond just the city of Orillia, because we're not an island to ourselves. And I just want to say that I love you all, and thank you for coming. And also, it doesn't stop here. Madeleine has been working tirelessly day and night for about a year on this, bringing community together, and she can't do it alone. So sign up. There's a newsletter over there. Sign up to volunteer. Call her, ask how you can help. There's lots to be done. There's lots of work ahead of us. So thank you, everyone.
We have in Oromodonte a smaller cousin of the more famous Oak Ridges moraine, and it's the Oro Moraine. It touches the west end of Orillia, and its waters help sustain many of our local wetlands. The Oro Moraine performs critical ecological and hydrological functions, and it must be protected for future generations. And sprawl will significantly impact the Oro Moraine. There have been studies that show a loss of recharge area in the Oro Moraine, which will drastically affect the flow of water to all watersheds, including the internationally recognized menacing wetlands. So my friend Kim is here, and she started Stop Sprawl Oromodonte / Save the Oro Moraine. Where's Kim? Can you raise your hand, Kim? That's Kim right there. She is awesome. So go talk to her after this about the Oro Moraine if you live in Oromodonte or have friends or family in Oromodonte or want to help her. And she has tons of flyers on the table there. So grab one of those and raise awareness for the Oro Moraine.
So much for caring. I'm Claire Malcolmson, ED of the Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition. I've been working on this stuff for 20 years now, and I wish I could say things were getting better. That's why we're here, right? I don't know about you guys, but sometimes now the fiction that I'm reading and the reality of the world is blurring in my mind, and I'm like, what's actually happening? So if you feel that way too, you are not alone. It's a crazy world. So it's super important to see your intelligent and loving faces here all together. This is the kind of collective of people that actually makes things happen. So I just wanted to say thank you for being you, for being here, and for supporting all of this stuff. My special role today is to tell you how sprawl affects Lake Simcoe. So I'm going to touch on a couple things. The speakers so far have been amazing and very moving. I'm going to really try hard not to repeat anything. In addition to whatever they said. So how does sprawl affect Lake Simcoe? Okay, so in general, a watershed of the type that we have here starts to become degraded at about 10% impervious surface, so hard surfaces, and we're extremely close to that. Last I checked, we were at about 9%. Other things you, I'm sure, know that a lake needs to be healthy are all of the things that help filter the contaminants out of the water that runs across the land and drains into the rivers, creeks, and the lake, so forests and wetlands. So the Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition has been trying really hard to raise awareness about the state of our forests and wetlands and advocate for better protection for those forests and wetlands. So some facts. The science-based target of the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan is to have 40% of the watershed, the Lake Simcoe Basin, in high-quality natural cover. We have about 20% high-quality natural cover now, but we have about 60% total cover. So we actually, here's the rainbow, people. We actually have enough if we protect it really well. So I think it's time that we do that, and that would really help with the sprawl problem. Because where you have a clearly protected area, you can't develop there. Oh, unless you're the government of Ontario and you're building a highway. So if you are pissed off by that, which I am, then please take one of our flyers. I'm going to ask my little boys here to help hand out some flyers in a bit. So fighting the things that are destroying our forests and wetlands is very important. So we could all really use your help there. Please take a flyer. There's a link to a petition. Been working with Margaret on fighting this Bradford Bypass Highway. So that was the forest stat and the segue to the highway. On the wetlands, we have approximately half of the original amount of wetland. I think actually that's probably less than half the original amount of wetland. But actually between 1999 and 2016, we lost 773 hectares of wetland in the Lake Simcoe watershed, which is really significant given that we're at less than half the historical average. I'm sure Bob Bowles will school me if I got the fact wrong. So I understand that if we sprawl around Orillia, that the options are forests or wetlands or farmland, and they're all good, and we really don't want to lose them. It is really critical as a priority in the Orillia area to get all the wetlands evaluated by the Ministry of Natural Resources and get them properly protected. This is definitely one of the best defenses you have against sprawl. So if that hasn't occurred to anyone, or if there's work to be done there, let me know. We can talk about that. So how does development specifically harm Lake Simcoe other than destruction of natural features? So there is phosphorus in soil, and phosphorus is a pollutant when it is added in excess to a water body. It helps create the conditions for algae and weeds to grow, and then when they grow and when they die, the process of dying and decomposition consumes oxygen. The fish have very specific ecosystem needs that include a certain amount of oxygen for them to breathe through their gills. So we are seeing real effects on the fishery in Lake Simcoe. It was stocked like hundreds of thousands of fish a year for decades. Long story short, the fish need your help, and all of the features that I've just described are important for the health of the fish, and the fish are like the bellwether for the health of the lake. So when you strip a site bare and there's soil exposed for farming, for like till farming, sort of conventional farming, or for housing developments, especially if they just sit there for like 6 years not doing anything, that actually contributes to the pollution of our water bodies in our lake. So that is why, as a Lake Simcoe advocate, I've been fighting sprawl. I started Stop Sprawl York Region in March of this year. It didn't go well. Like they just approved like 8,000 acres of more sprawl in York Region. So I'm very sad about that. However, my final point will be, you guys can do it. I've been following the Stop Sprawl campaigns across Ontario, and in Hamilton, which is, like you guys, a single-tier government. One, it's funky, just like you people in this town. Two, it's kind of city-like, which I would not say describes a lot of towns in York Region, for example. And so you have this sense of community. You can actually get together, you can meet, you can deliver lawn signs in less than 3 hours, which is not a privilege I enjoy. So it's a single tier of government. You don't have the complication of your upper tier regional government. It's a huge advantage for you. So that's a big part of why Hamilton was able to win and hold their urban boundary firm. So I just really want to encourage everybody to persist. You have an excellent chance of winning. You have fabulous leaders. You must support them as best you can. And you know, there's a lot of really messed up stuff out there. The more I dig, the more I realize, like, we need really radical change. And it starts here, and it starts right now with Orillia winning the boundary fight. So go Orillia.
Everyone. So I'm here. Madeleine said I only have 55 minutes to talk to you. I don't know why she centers me out, but wanted to just be very brief because you've had quite a few speakers, but this is an important meeting. So really want to thank the younger generation like Madeleine and Em and all these younger people. My generation destroyed a lot of the environment. We have to preserve it for our children, our grandchildren. And you've seen pictures on TV of what's happening out in last year out in Fraser Valley, the mudslides, the city's completely burnt right through, no houses left. You saw what happened out in Newfoundland, and they're still cleaning that up now. There will be until next year the destruction there. Some of you go down to Naples and Fort Myers in Florida, and you've seen that whole coastline, and it's just been devastated. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Climate change has started, and it's affecting the extremities. Orillia is in a basin, and we are going to have great impacts on climate change. We have a feature on our land that will protect us against the silt that's washing down into Lake Simcoe and Lake Couchiching right now, and in Severn. It's called they're called wetlands, and wetlands they're the filter, they protect things getting into the water, the cold water fisheries in Simcoe. If you go out to Scout Valley and walk in there, you go up on the Oro Moraine. Oro Moraine has divided the watersheds. We have the Lake Simcoe watershed to the west. We have to the north. We have the Silver Creek watershed, and then south of Highway 12 we have the Bass Lake watershed, which all it drains and go into Bass Lake down the North River, joins the Silver Creek, goes into Georgian Bay. So we've got 3 different watersheds, no really protection in our basin in Orillia for all those 3 watersheds. Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority is the strongest, but we're not members of the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority in Orillia. We're not a seven sound environment. I've worked with all these organizations on contracts. They're great organizations, but we're just not members of them. Nottawasaga Valley protects Bass Lake up that way, but again, nothing here in Orillia. We have three existing, I saw the federal election a couple of years ago, I saw the provincial election. We now are in the municipal election. This is the most important. It's not just for the next 4 years, it's going to be for the next 20 years. We have three councillors here today, existing councillors, and they are actually, when you look around, the ones that actually care most about wetlands. I have been told, I'm going to talk about the one wetland in particular, but we have the other councillors potential coming in, the candidates, and I'm really pleased to see you out and listening to us. You are the people that will change. We need change. We can't keep doing what we have been doing, and we really need that change to protect us. We have in that Silver Creek the Inch Farm wetland. That should never have happened. It started back in '92. We have mapped all the wetlands. We have a new group called the Orillia Wetland Watchers. We have mapped every wetland. We're on the Orillia filtration wetland. It's been nibbled away at. We have a wonderful map person. What was her name, Anna? I forget. But she has done a wonderful job of documenting the losses in the wetlands. So Anna's done that. We have that on file. We keep nibbling away on these. Drive out to Murphy Road, the end of Murphy Road, to Utah line. Look at what's going to happen to the Inch Farm wetland. The South Tributary, an M&R biologist in '92 said we need bigger setbacks, we need to plant trees to protect that for fish habitat. They said, we can do that. We hired consultants, and my time's up. Okay, so my time's up. We'll hire consultants, so they did. Today, there are no fish in that South Tributary. They've doubled the 172 to 365 houses. They're encroaching in on that. They haven't given the proper setback. I'm an expert witness in OMB hearings and LPAT hearings now. I've never seen a worse case than this one here in the encroachment. So go out and look at Inch Farm wetland. That's what's coming. We need that to protect us against climate change. Everything is connected to everything else in the world. We talked about water and all that. Wetlands are the light. They're going to keep the water clean, the air clean. And so thanks for your time today. I hope you vote wisely to protect wetlands, woodlands, and natural heritage features. Otherwise, we're going to pay for it. Thank you.
I've got the hardest job today because I come at the end after all the speakers have said everything really important. So I now get to try and make something up on the fly that's going to be meaningful to everybody. So thank you, all you wonderful speakers, for making my job that much harder. So yes, I'm with the Simcoe County Greenbelt Coalition. We have our whole purpose of being is building social power, and building social power around values, about protecting our green spaces, about building affordable, healthy communities. It's not something, Mark talked and Bob talked too about change. Actually, what I would say is we have to go back to how we used to do things before we decided cars were more important than people, that our health was less important than someone's, dollars in their pocket. So when you look at downtown Orillia, that old downtown Orillia, that is how we used to build communities for a really long time. So we don't have to invent something new. We just have to go back to how we were. And I think that's something that we can all take a little bit of comfort in. I would say for the municipal leaders that are here, and for those of you that are going, gee, okay, I'm going to vote in a municipal election, and I hope, how many of you are planning on voting? Everybody? Good. How many of you know 10 people? Come on now. You met at least 3 or 4 here. So this is what social power is about, and thanks to Green Orillia for getting this, because you can take 10 of those little sheets and you can get people to vote. And it's not the only way to create change, but to say that it doesn't affect anything is also cynical and wrong. You look at world leaders around, you can't say that Putin being in Russia doesn't have an impact, right? You can't say that American or Canadian politics doesn't have an impact on people's lives. It does. So let's not be cynical and let's get people out. The Simcoe County Greenbelt Coalition put together, we have a program called Community Leaders for Sustainable Simcoe. And some of the leaders that are here today took that pledge. And they're pledging publicly that they care about affordable housing, they care about climate, they care about people, and they want to make sure that they invest those decisions when they're in council. So go to Sustainable Community Leaders, you can look it up, and you will see the pledge signers that are there. And you need to support those people. These are the people that are putting in time to make sure that your life is better. Finally, I'll just say, raise your hand if you know somebody under the age of 25. Okay, I have 2 kids, that counts. One thing we didn't really talk about that much today was about climate change. And so for those people that you just thought of when you raised your hand, they're under 25. But within their lifetime, our climate in Simcoe County will be similar to Mississippi. So by then also, we will not have any functioning ski hills. So what we know now with winter and ice and all those wonderful things will not exist for them in the way that it did for us. And that's not to be a doomsday person, because these kind of things are hard to hear. That's to shock you to say, wow, this is really not just business as usual anymore. And the decisions that governments are making are mostly in the politically feasible and very not much in the, this is enough to stop what we're doing. So I encourage all of you to vote. I encourage you to get more people out to vote, build social power. Don't just come to a rally. I'm thankful that you did. How are you going to take that action back into your life? Vote, email, keep those leaders accountable, donate your time, donate your money. Do something that shows that you care about those 25 and younger, and you care about the world that you live in now. So thank you for listening, and thank you to Madeleine, and I hope I entertained.
Please check out their organizations from Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition to Simcoe County Greenbelt. All of their organizations do amazing work, so I thank you. Please grab a few of these and share them with people you know. Please grab a lawn sign. We have Stop Sprawl Orillia lawn signs, so if you would be willing to put one in your lawn, whether you live in Orillia, Oro, Severn, or Amera, just let me know. We can grab you a lawn sign. Claire also told me they're giving these Protect Lake Simcoe lawn signs away too. So you can take either one of those lawn signs if you'd like. Please sign up for the newsletter, take these, take pictures that you're here, post about it, tell your friends, and I think that's it. So thank you so much, everyone.